Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm ESL teacher Lisa. So today we're going to cover our last two chapters, chapter 9 and 10, in our PDF document, Intermediate Socializing Skills, Conversational English for ESL Learners. So let's get right to chapter 9 and 10, and you can check the other chapters that we covered in my other videos. So let's go to chapter 9. So today is conversational etiquette. So etiquette involves good manners, and of course this is different in different languages, but we're going to talk about the American English culture. So you can read in more details, but I'm just going to give some of the highlights. So we're going to start with polite phrases and expressions. Let's look at the first one here about greetings and introductions. So this is on page 35 of the document. So when you meet someone for the first time, of course, you want to start with a warm greeting. So you probably already know, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. Maintain eye contact. And if you do that, you show yourself to be sincere and respectful. Again, this is different in other cultures, but maintaining eye contact in the American culture shows that you respect the other person. Looking at number 2. So to keep the conversation flowing, you have to show interest. Well, what can you say to show genuine interest? Well, we have phrases like, that's interesting, tell me more. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And the person will continue to speak. So that's a great way to keep the conversation flowing or going. Sometimes you need to ask for help. So number 3. So if you find yourself in need of assistance, you can ask politely by saying, could you please help me with this? Or I would greatly appreciate your guidance. And that can go a long way so you can get a positive response. Number 4, sometimes you have to offer assistance. So you might have to say, is there anything I can do to assist you? Or let me know if I can be of help. And then what about expressing gratitude? Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate your kindness. So you can already see, if you already know these expressions and you have them ready to go, it can really help you when you socialize and interact with other people. What about apologizing? Sometimes just saying, I'm sorry is not enough, but we can say more. How about, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Or please accept my apologies for my behavior. When you say for my behavior, it means you're taking responsibility for what you did. And that goes a long way, not just, oh, I'm sorry, but for my behavior, for not meeting the deadline, for ignoring you, for not returning your email. It's a lot better. Number 7, making requests. So you can say, would you mind? So this already, would you mind, shows you being polite. If I can borrow your pen. Or could you please pass me the salt? So to be polite or more formal, you could say, could you please, or would you mind? Okay, we're going to move forward, showing respect and consideration. Of course, remember your polite greetings. We're going to move down further. I just did a video on active listening, which means showing the other person that you're listening. When you're watching TV, that's not active listening. So what we mean by active listening in conversation is maintaining eye contact, nodding, or saying things like, I see, that's interesting, tell me more, to encourage the speaker. There's some languages, and I've been told by other students, where it's polite just to listen. I know in some Asian cultures you just listen and you don't interrupt, but not in the American culture. We don't want just silence. Number 3, empathy and understanding, saying things like, I understand how you feel, or I'm going through something similar. Sometimes saying I understand how you feel is not always true because we don't understand how people feel. So I prefer to say something like, I went through something similar, or yeah, I'm certainly trying to understand how you feel, but we really don't know how the other person feels, but we could say we felt similar. You can say, I can imagine that must be challenging, or I'm sorry to hear that. So you're trying to show some kind of empathy. Now, polite interruptions. You can interrupt someone in the American culture, but be polite about it. You can even do this to your boss or supervisor. Excuse me for interrupting, and then say what you need to say. I'm sorry to interject or interrupt. I'm sorry to interject, but, and then go ahead and say what you need to say. Asking for permission. Let me just go back to number 4 for a second. I do have some students that say they have to speak English during meetings at work, or they work for an international company, and they don't always know when to interject and say something or how to go about doing it. And this is a very simple way, just saying, excuse me for interrupting, and say what you need to say. Or I'm sorry to interject, and say what you need to say. You can't always wait for the perfect moment or for somebody to invite you to speak. So this is a way that you can interrupt politely, even in a business setting. Asking for permission. You can also use this in a business setting. Excuse me, boss, may I ask you a question? Or could I say something? Or would you mind if I shared my opinion? So again, that's a great way to contribute if you feel you have something valuable to say. And then the 6th one, thanking and appreciation. You can use phrases like, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate your help. Or I'm grateful for your insight. So again, it's not acknowledging the other person's contributions, and also you're showing and demonstrating respect. Okay. Just be aware of cultural sensitivities in conversations. There are cultural differences that we have to be aware of. I won't go through all of these. You can read it in more detail because this is a free PDF. But I do want you to be mindful of something. Number 2, please be aware of your body language, your gestures, and your facial expressions. They may have different meanings in various cultures. So be careful what you do with your face, with your body, hand movements. All of these things could be very different in different cultures. So just be aware of that and watch other people. Observe how other people communicate in the American English culture compared to yours. And you can certainly know how to behave with your physical movements, facial expressions, and so forth. Okay, let's go to the next chapter, which is chapter 10. This is our last one, practicing socializing skills. So now you have to practice. So a great way to practice is role play. So if you already have a teacher or tutor, maybe you've done this in the past, role play is extremely important. So essentially you pretend you're someone. So if you wanted to practice being in a business meeting, you might pretend you're the employee and somebody else will be your boss, and then you can interact that way. Or you're at a social gathering, maybe you can play the host and then someone else could play, the newcomer to the gathering. Something like that. So you can choose whatever situation. It can be casual, it can be formal, but you practice using the language. So you can go back and go through all 10 chapters, write out some of the expressions that you'd like to use, and practice it in the role play. Practice saying some of these expressions and questions to help you to become more comfortable. That's really the only way to be comfortable expressing yourself in a language, is to speak and use some of the phrases that you've learned in vocabulary. Okay. And the last section is real life application of skills. So again, you could read through this on your own time. Okay, I'm just scrolling through. I just want to make sure there isn't anything else I wanted to mention. No, so that's it. So I hope to see you in the next video. So that's all 10 chapters to help you to become more comfortable at an intermediate level to socialize. So hopefully you got some valuable points from this series of videos. I'll see you in the next one.